Hello, everyone. I'm here with my friend, good, deep friend, Barbara Court. And Barbara and I know each other. I've had her on before on another interview I did a good couple of years ago now. But Barbara and I know each other for nearly 12 years now, which is
Hmm.
wild. And Barbara is many things. She wears many hats and really does a huge amount of work with helping people align with their true nature and their soul path, so to speak, and really works deeply with elemental consciousness, star consciousness, and the wisdom really of the future Earth, of the Earth that is emerging and will emerge in the future generations. So today, we're going to dive in a little bit and open up sacred space here and now in this kind of time right now, which is so beyond anything I think many of us thought it would be, a time of such acceleration on the earth and in the consciousness of humanity. So we're going to dive into a few little things around that, and also around Barbara's connections with elementals and with a whole lot more. Let's see where this conversation goes today. So, Barbara, it's so great to have you here.
Yeah, it's always fun with you, Mara. You
Oh,
know, yeah,
I do.
we've had some fun times. Yeah.
We've had many fun times. I think, yeah, yeah, and some of the wildest times always laced with humor. And I think
Yeah.
I love that about you, is the way that you're able to laugh at yourself and at life, because some of the things that you've experienced in your life have
Hmm.
been very out of the ordinary for a lot of people, I suppose. um,
Hmm.
and I let's begin there. Let's talk a little bit around some of these experiences that are out of non-ordinary reality that you have had, and that have shaped your own path, so to speak.
Yeah, well, a lot of people ask me, like, okay, so I just wrote a book, it came out, and Mara will talk about
Yes.
that at some point too. And they say, so how come you get to have all these amazing experiences and I don't have experiences like that? And I'm like, well, I can't apologize for it. It's just part of my path, and we all have individual paths. And I think I've always kind of been a storyteller and, just really open in my energy field. And that when you have a really open energy field, it's noticed. It's noticed by the elementals, and it's noticed by the inner earth beings, and it's noticed by other dimensional beings, and it's noticed by sometimes the dark ones. So I've pulled in lots of experiences, and I think it's there to share with
Yeah.
other people, because honestly, number one, I think there's a lot of people that have had experiences that they think, well, I'm afraid to tell people about it, or
Yeah.
someone's going to think I'm crazy, or whatever it is that they're scared of these experiences. But being open in your energy field and learning how to feel energy is probably the biggest movements forward in opening up experiences for yourself. And I think you can do that. Like for me, I started reading books with out of ordinary experiences. Like they weren't like what the kind of stuff that I was having happen, but it was like a guy who fell asleep in a boat, and when he woke up he had like 1,000 swans swimming around him. And he would be doing work for the universe, and he'd say, hey, I am broke, I don't have enough money to get enough gas to go to the next place. And then he would hear this voice come in and say, take a walk, don't come back for 20 minutes. And when he'd come back, there'd be an envelope with a bunch of money taped to his window, and just different things
Right.
like that. And then people who would just say stuff out into the universe, and they'd be taught pure information. And I'm like, well, if they can do it, I can do it. So
Yeah.
that's what I want. I want out of the ordinary experiences. And if I'm doing work for the universe, I want to meet these other beings. I want to know if it's true or if it's not true, because I don't want to learn information through somebody who channels, a certain star being, or, people who just, they think they know a lot of stuff about it. And a lot of people do. It's like, I want pure experience. And that's what I would always put out there. I want pure experience. And so asking the doors opened, right? So that's when things would start happening for me. And
so did you set like an intention when you first started connecting with spirit that you wanted to have these experiences? Did you set that into consciously?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. When I was doing my bakery, I think it was one of the fastest spiritual growths I ever could have imagined. I would listen nonstop to tape on CD and all this stuff of all these masters and people who've come before us with teachings and stuff. And it really opened my eyes really quick. And I think, like, one time I was reading a book with Barbara Ann Brennan, and I said, all right, I don't understand energy fields, and the universal energy field, and I don't want to learn it from a book. I want you to teach me. And so a voice came in and said, okay, stop everything you're doing and go outside, and I'll teach you about it. And I'm like, okay. So I did. And that's when I began knowing that all I had to do is ask. And I had this help that would, like, literally give me information and create. What is so interesting is it could create everything to happen with such great beauty and purpose. Like, so the colors changed, the dynamics and the energy of the field that I was in would change. And literally, like, it was some of the brightest colors I'd ever seen. And it was during the sunrise, and they'd say, okay, look at the tree. And I'd say, okay, yep. And they said, do you see that little energy around the tops and the sides of the tree? And I said, yeah, I do. And they said, okay, now just kind of like look straight ahead and look at everything individually, bushes, flowers, whatever it is. And then you will see if you can see that emitting. Well, of course, I'm sure they probably gave me help with it, but I could see it. And then they said, now just lose focus and you will see that all things come together. That is why we say everything is one. There's no division between anything. It's all made from the same energy field, even our human bodies, everything we make, everything. So it's like you can play lucidly in those fields and you can ask for help to see things, and they'll make whatever experience it is that you need to see. They'll help you create it, or you'll be able to tune into it. So learning about energy, the best thing you can do, really, honestly.
Well, it sounds though like your learning was direct. It was experiential. It was direct with consciousness itself, right? But so from what I take from that, you were listening to these teachings that were out there, but you wanted to have your own experience of what it felt to perceive energy and to perceive dimensions. So you went out there, you asked, and then you worked with what you received. Like, you really worked and co-created with that energy, right?
Absolutely. And we can all do this.
Yeah. We
all have the ability to do this, but if you don't believe you can do it and you don't really have the want to do it, you're never going to experience it. It's all about what you are perceiving and wanting to understand. And, I think one of the most beautiful things people can do, and I know people will say, oh, I don't want to talk out loud. Everybody's going to think I'm crazy. But when you talk out loud, the universe hears everything you say, and you get response. And it's like you're using your breath, you're
Yes.
using your, the fire of your gut, you're using air as you push it out.
Yeah.
You're using all the elements, the water, the earth, which you're standing on. You're using all of the elements to create, this
Yes.
call out to the universe. And how powerful, it's very powerful.
That's a good reminder. Do you think that an internal intention has the same effect? It has the same power of, calling in.
I think that it has power. I don't
Yeah.
think it has the same power.
Okay. Good to,
I don't.
Good to know.
I think speaking it out loud, even if you whisper,
Yes.
it's like the reverberation of a drum.
Yes.
So if you keep the drum sequestered, if you have that wrapped in something, all you hear is a thud, thud, thud. But if you unwrap it and you allow its voice to go, it goes.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so you're rippling your energy out in all directions. So that's why I always tell people, say it out loud.
Yeah. That makes so much sense. Yes, and important.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for that. That's so I suppose speaking about just going back for a moment to having those connections with, when you speak of Middle Earth beings, and I know we've talked about these things before, and I've had these experiences with you and on my own through the years, but I feel like we're in a time where consciousness is so exploded, and there are just so many realities present. Like it's so lucid now, and more and more people are seeing and discerning, or seeing and hearing things that maybe freak them out, and they can't really discern what maybe I would term as an elemental or a gnome or a tree being, right? That they might interpret that as something else. So I suppose that when we speak about Middle Earth beings and star beings, how would you speak to somebody who's just opening up on a path of awareness of really these different realms of reality and the different spirits and entities that we engage with?
Okay, so are you talking how to draw that in for people and how to?
I think how to discern, how to manage, when somebody is opening up their consciousness and they're engaging with levels of consciousness, or different beings, right? That there are schools out there that are teaching different things about light beings and this being and that being. I think a lot of discernment is needed, particularly in these times. So, how do you discern what is a benevolent being? Maybe that's the better way to go around it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I can understand what you're saying. So the first thing that I always do, and, for me, it's kind of hard to answer some of these questions because, like, if you ask me, how do I draw that into me? Like most of the time, I don't even ask for it. It just happens, as you well know.
Yeah.
So what I try to do is I try to keep my heart open. So love is our superpower, right?
Exactly.
And I remember once I was hiking Sedona, and this very strange man came up to me, and he told me that he was the head of the Melchizedek group of North America. And he said, I'm supposed to talk to you. And I said, okay. And he goes, he gave me a bunch of information we don't need to go into. But at the end, he said, Barbara, if you're working on somebody and there's an entity attached to that person and you want to get rid of the entity, he said, just send them a lot of love, because they can't stand that, or tell a bad joke. One of the two. He goes, you'll get rid of them. And I'm like, okay, you know, but the love piece is so true. So it's number one, remember, love is your superpower.
Right.
So I'm going to go with that.
Yeah.
And as you go into having experiences with this being, you're normally going to be in a state of maybe some fear to like whole, really full-fledged fear, because you don't know what it is, and it can be scary sometimes.
Yeah.
So the first thing I always tell people is like, take a deep breath and go into your heart. And if you want to have these kind of experiences, then you have to feel into them. If I don't feel like something is threatening, because it's really easy for me to tell a threatening being versus a loving being, I open up my heart more. If I feel like there's some shenanigans there, I can feel my heart kind of closing down a little bit.
Right.
And then I will put protection around me, and I'll call in like Jesus or somebody like that to make sure my field stays solid. And then I will send them a great amount of love until they go away and say, I do not, what would be the word what starts with a C? I do not
Consent.
This is not okay. I do not consent.
Yeah.
So you need to go. And a lot of times if I feel an out of sort entity, I will send them a lot of love. And then I'll ask for the archangels to come down and to lovingly take the entity back to source, and that they can work it out, because we're in a time where there's still some darkness here. It's not like it used to be. It's not as bad as what it was. But part of our job here that we came here to do is to help the darkness move into the light.
Yeah.
And so if you're always pushing it away, it's always going to come back.
Well, and what are you pushing away? Because we are made up of both dark and light, right?
Exactly. And what people call the big, switch out of the earth of everything that's going on, and the darkness falling and the light coming in. It's like, what if you looked at that at a different way? What if you looked at that as we have to uncover all the darkness in the world and within ourselves, because everything we are, we contribute to what's going on in the world. Yes. So if we have stuff we're not looking at, maybe that dark piece is there to show us something. So it's still like, can you be with something as long as you don't feel like your life is in stake? Can you be with it and ask it why it's there first? Once you figure out that it is there, because I'm telling you, I've learned a lot from having some of those experiences. And in the work that I do, what I find so interesting, Mara, and I think it's really actually quite amazing. I have a client who will come in and they'll go, oh my God, there's something after me and it's sabotaging me and I'm scared and I don't know what to do. And I'll say, okay, let me check into it. And then I do. And I say, okay, you know what we're going to do? We're going to put you right here and we're going to put a chair facing you right here. I'm holding the container.
Yeah.
Let's call in that dark piece of energy that has been plaguing you and have it sit here so that we can figure out why it's here. And, they're kind of scared usually, but they do it because I'm there to protect them. It's not going to hurt them. And once that energy comes in, I'll say, okay, I need you to look at it. And they'll go, oh my God, it's me as a child. Yeah. It's me. And I've been pushing it away.
Yeah.
And so then we let that child talk to them. And then the child, once it's able to, explain why It's been doing what it's doing to get your attention.
Yes.
Yeah, it's never going to happen if it doesn't get your attention. You know, then we can integrate it back in again. And it can be like that person's biggest cheerleader because it's already experienced the dark pieces. So it can help them through it. And I think that is absolutely beautiful. So sometimes we think of the dark as so scary, but if we can sit with it just a little, we might be able to figure out why it's there.
And that's key. That's such a
It's key.
You know, I remember when I first started becoming conscious of these realms and, you know, doing various shamanic trainings and really entering down into that road of understanding the darkness and what these dark entities, inverted commas, are. And something that really didn't resonate with me was that perpetuation of these demons or entities as being something separate from me. You know, I could never figure out why it didn't resonate. And I know that there are very real darker energies and forces that do interfere with people, but for the most part, most of these energies or entities are our own disowned parts, right?
Yes.
And we're absolutely. Just running from them.
We're running is right. And pushing them away. Now, however, that's a whole different scenario than if you do have a dark entity that is coming in and messing with you. And for that, what I would do is, number one, you should really, when you're doing spiritual work, it's okay to like put yourself in a bubble of pure love. You know, I always use love. I always do, because why wouldn't you if that's your superpower, right?
Yes.
So it takes the charge away of everything. It's just a beautiful tool to use. So if you do have that, the thing is, and you don't know if you should be like channeling it or listening to it or whatever, I put that bubble around myself, and I put the bubble around that being or that energy of pure love. And then I say, I feel into it to see if it's discordant or not discordant. And again, if my heart starts shutting down a little bit, I'm like, okay, I'm not ready to talk to you because I'm in fear. And if I go into fear, I'm going to give you my power. So I'm not ready to I don't want to do this with you. I don't consent to you coming into my space. And we're going to have to call in a master. So I'll call in Jesus or whoever, or I'll just say, archangels, come and lovingly take this one back to source and let them work it out. I'm not going to deal with this today. Sorry, but you have your choice. And we all have our own free will. And that's what I do.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way of doing it, of reconciling that it's really about, I do not consent to you being in my field. And and I also would like to speak to how you would know if you have an entity attachment or if you have another energy that is really interfering with you. I mean, for me, it will be any seed of confusion. If I'm confused, if you know, because they seem to love to seed in confusion or chaos into the mix.
Well, you know, sometimes you don't know if that's like another discordant part of yourself.
That's true. Yeah,
right?
That's true.
You know?
Yeah, this is the tricky, the trickiness.
It's very tricky. So what I would say is listen to what they have to say. If it's stuff that leads you away from the light, you have an entity.
Yeah. Away from your heart, away from your heart.
Yes. Then that is an entity that you need to like take care of. But the being said that, some of those little children who have been through a lot of stuff, they can say some pretty nasty things too,
Yeah.
so it's like you just really got to discern, like, is
Mm,
this a discordant part of me? It will say yes or no. You'll get it if
yeah.
you ask the questions. And the most powerful thing you can do is start asking the questions and see, where you feel that in your body, or if you
Hmm.
hear anything. Is this a part of me? No. Is it an entity? Yes. Where is it hooked into me? The mouth of God. All right. Why is it here? Keep
Right.
asking those questions.
Yeah.
Keep going down the rabbit hole until you feel like, and ask for somebody to come in and work with you on it, so you feel like you've got a backup if things don't go right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
That's great. Yeah. And it's really trusting yourself. It's honing and
Mm-hmm.
refining your skill of listening to your body and then listening to your heart about
Absolutely.
what's alive, I suppose, in you.
Yep. And
Yeah.
there's sometimes, Mara, where I'll just hear, all right. So I kind of have a like an interdimensional house, and sometimes, I mean, my bedroom is nuts. It was getting to be nuts at night, and you kind of go into a little bit of fear because all of a sudden you hear like a big old slam, or you hear wings flap across you or something, and you're like, all right, guys, not in my bedroom. This is my sacred space. You can't come in here anymore. I'll talk to you out in the rest of the house, but my bedroom is sacred.
Oh yeah.
No. So you kind of got to set some boundaries with everything
Hmm.
too. I mean, because it's all your, you can pick what you want to do. Sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just say it. There's been a few times where I'm like, did I really sign up for this? I don't know.
Well, I think so. Some of your experiences, Barb. People wouldn't believe you. You wouldn't believe it unless you saw it with your own eyes as well. I've had
Mm-hmm.
experiences with you. I think the nature of your field and your being and how you co-create with the universe is like it's wild and it's vast and yeah, it's not what everybody would be connecting with, right? But
No,
it's
no,
and
I
no,
don't think so.
exactly.
I don't.
No,
I
no.
mean, maybe there's people that do. It's just, like sometimes, like I say in my book, I said sometimes I think I'm in a alien reality show, and they're trying to throw stuff at me to see how I react. And
Oh
I don't know, it
no.
gets pretty wild sometimes. But you know what? I don't regret anything, and I've had a heck of a lot of fun too. So
Oh yeah. I
just roll
loved.
with it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's what I have read your book. Well, I read your book over Christmas, which is this is Barb's lovely book. It's Memoirs of, let me see, a Mystic Misfit. And here we've
Mm-hmm.
Bigfoot on the cover, isn't it? Oh
Yep.
yeah, it is.
Yep. And
Uh,
there's a spaceship back there, and there's little fairies, and
the
and
image is beautiful. It's really
yeah.
powerful. Yeah,
Thank you.
I can see it. And I love that you tracked your life from, the whole awakening process for you really, and how all the experience of your life, led you through to meet with these experiences in such a beautiful and powerful way. Um, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we met in Peru just before 2012, so in 2011, and that for me was the most life-changing trip. I saw things and experienced things I had never believed possible, and
Mm-hmm.
looking back, nearly 12 years later, I have a different perspective on things, but also there are things that happen in our lives that can't be explained. They're phenomena, right?
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
and you've had many of those experiences.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love you to speak to maybe one favorite phenomena or particular story that really was a game changer for you, or it was something that really tested your metal, as they say over here, tested your 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 everything.
Well, Peru tested everything, let me tell you. But we don't need to go to that one. Honestly, I think one of the last experiences I had was one of my funnest. And it was a Bigfoot story, if you want to hear it.
Oh, please. Yeah.
Okay. So I went with a friend to the Ascetti Ranch. Her name was Aida. I know she wouldn't care if I said it out loud. So the Ascetti Ranch is in Oregon, in the Washington border right there. And there's this phenomenon there of all these beings that are on this mountain. I think it's called Mount Hope. And then James Gilliland, he has this place where it's pretty interdimensional. So anyway, we just thought we would enjoy going there, and he has spaceships that come through a lot, and there's some satellites, but some of the ships come through and they fire up and all this stuff. Well, we went in July, so it was hot. It was like 99, 100 degrees, and we were in this big tent, and we had some pretty wild experiences. But my favorite was the last night. And before we were going to go out to Star Wash, I said, Aida, I got to go take a shower and wash my hair. I am like wringing wet, and it is just, I need to cool off. So I went and did that. We kind of got everything put away and ready for the next day so we could just pull up and go. And then we went out and watched the spaceships. And after you've seen 20 spaceships, you're like, okay, that's all right. So we decided to go in.
Some people have never seen one, Barb. Just to make that
I know, but when you just, constant, like every 5 minutes, there was another, and after a while, you're kind of like, okay, I've seen enough. It's been 3 nights of this. So we go to our tent, and it's a pretty big tent. And I look at Aida and I say, well, if we haven't experienced what we all were supposed to have come here to experience, then I'm open to receive that the rest of the night. We're open. I put her in on it too. And she looked at me and I'm like, only if you want. And she goes, yeah, sure. So we lay down, and the next morning I wake up and my head kind of hurts. And I'm like, what the heck? I'm, feeling the hair like I have a bump there or something. And I pull my hand out, and there's dirt and pebbles and, little stones embedded all over my head. And I'm like, what the heck? And Aida, she says, what's wrong? I said, Aida, I have dirt and rocks in my hair all over the place. She goes, you took a shower. And I said, I know, that's why it's so weird. And she sits up, and I look at, I was scratching my head. I said, what the heck, did I have sex with Bigfoot last night? What's going on here? So that's who I am. So anyway, so Aida, she sits up, and I'm like, what happened to your lip? And she goes, oh, and she's feeling it, and it's split, and it's all swollen. And I said, I don't know what happened to us last night, but something did, and nothing came to me. So we thought, okay, let's just pull this tent up and let's get going. So we take the rest of the way home. We're just meandering and picking moss and doing stuff that we're, just relaxing. And we get home, and I get this message that I'm supposed to have a reading by a guy in Australia. And I'm like, okay, he was a friend of mine. And I thought, well, all right. So I set up a time with him, and the time comes, and he gets on the screen. He goes, of course you'd have Bigfoot come through my kitchen right before we're going to have, your reading. And I'm like, oh, Bigfoot's there, honey. He goes, yeah. And I said, well, what does he want? And he goes, well, I don't know. I've never spoke to a Bigfoot before. And I said, well, Mark, he's there. You're a channeler. You can channel him. So he tuned in and he goes, well, he's actually kind of upset with you. He's a little mad. And I said, okay, why? And he said, would you quit going to power places? He goes, where did you go? I said, the City Ranch. He goes, great. I always wanted to go there. I said, okay. So he goes, well, you said quit going to power places. It's too hard to like protect you. And I'm like, what? And he goes, yes, please quit going to them. You don't need to go there. You know, when people go to these power places, beings can see your light and then you're fair game. And I'm like, oh, okay. I just never really thought of that. I just wanted to experience the Ascetti Ranch. So then he goes, oh, Bigfoot says, sorry about your hair. And I'm like, what? And he goes, well, he told me that you and Aida were laying in the tent and this ship came down and they weren't like the most benevolent beings. And they started levitating you guys up in their, with their force field. You know, they were bringing you up. So both of you were off the bed. So Bigfoot came in, grabbed both of you, and took off running. And he slipped and fell and dropped you. I'm like, okay, that explains a lot, So I'm like, I mean, you can't make this stuff up, right?
Oh gosh.
So I told him, I said, okay, I'll behave. I won't go to these power places like that anymore. So anyway, it was
wild.
a fun. Yeah.
That is
It was.
wild. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. You'll have people who listen to that and it won't.
Exactly.
It won't. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it. Having been with you and had these experiences. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the one that you and I had was wild, but that's probably a little too wild.
I'm trying to think which one was that.
The one where I woke up with no clothes on.
Yes, that's right. Oh
my
gosh.
Yeah.
Well, I think you have to.
We don't need to go there.
Jesus. Well, isn't that so interesting that having been someone who, I mean, your journey has taken you all around the world, working with elemental consciousness and star consciousness, right? And so do you feel like what has shifted for you in that work? Because you've done a lot of working with these sacred sites or these power places on the earth for the times that we are moving into now as a species.
Right. I don't know. They're just starting to kind of open that back up again.
Yeah.
I knew I had to write this book, and that was like a 3-year process.
Yeah.
And really actually being in my own energy, which I really was, and getting to know who I am better. So, I mean, my next piece, I have no idea. I'm open to whatever that is, but it does feel like it's more interdimensional stuff and meeting beings from other dimensions and all that kind of stuff, which excites me because holy cow, there's so much out there, and
there sure is,
and I just let it be shown to me all the time.
Yeah,
I do. It's like if I can't even conceive what it is that I'm going to be doing in life, then why even try? Because then I'm boxing myself in. So I would rather be open, and I'm just going to follow my heart in every moment, and it's going to take me exactly where I need to go.
Well, that's it. Absolutely. Yeah. That's the main thing. I think I know that for me, I've done some work with you on land spaces and how there are some of us who've kind of come in to this world to assist the earth in certain ways that we have our own unique gifts in how we assist in these times, right? And the nature of that is is and constantly evolves. And I also see, so many people have woken up in the last 10 years, since 2012 to now, and are traveling
Yep.
all of these sacred meridian lines of the earth, and reweaving the pathways, the sacred lines,
Yep.
which is fantastic. It's phenomenal. And there are many who've gone before us, even who've been holding the memory of ancient and sacred times on this earth for us now, right?
Absolutely.
So we keep
Mm-hmm.
we keep building on each other. Do you feel? What do you feel? I mean, I'm feeling profound shifts even in the last month of the paramagnetics of the earth, so the lines shifting and moving, a lot of planetary activity. Are
Oh
you are you
yeah.
yeah, are you what are you
Oh
sensing
yeah.
around that?
Oh yeah. So what I feel like is we're merging timelines and we're shifting timelines constantly. And I can give you an example of that if you would like to know.
Yeah, please.
So one day I went down in the basement, which I have a hole of a basement. There's no wall, there's no windows and stuff. And I went down there. I was filling up the salt and the, softener. And it just came out of my mouth. And I said, oh my gosh, all the light bulbs are going to explode. And I'm going to be stuck down here in the dark because I forgot to bring my phone, and it creeped me out. I was like, oh no, I'm going to have to touch the walls and all this stuff to get up the stairs. So that's what happens the minute it comes out of my mouth. All the light bulbs explode, and you can hear the filaments popping and the glass and all of
Ooh.
that. And I'm like, okay, so I go upstairs and I call my landlord, and I told him, I said, hey, this is what happened down the basement. But I know you're going on vacation and it's okay. You don't have to, go down there and get them. I'll do it. So I wait a week and a half because I really didn't want to do it very bad. And I thought, well, okay, he's coming home. I'm going to have to go down there and get this done. So I turn on the light switch because then that's the only way I could know that these light bulbs are fixed. They all come on. And I'm like, what? So then I sent a message and I said, did you come and change the light bulbs before you left? And he goes, no, I wasn't down there. No, that would have been like 2 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, huh. So I'm looking around. There's no glass. There's no anything. And I'm like, okay. Well, then a couple days later, I get a knock on the door, and he's like, why did you pull the hose out of the sump pump? And I'm like, why would I do that? No, I didn't do that. And I'm like, I don't know how that happened, but I didn't do it. Well, he was scratching his head and left again. And then later, when I was sitting down to tune in, it said that was a timeline shift. So something went wrong with the sump pump. So he had to pull the hose out to pull it up and do stuff, but it hadn't yet got put back in. And the light bulbs had gotten changed. But he doesn't know it because it was a different timeline of him. You
Yes,
understand?
yes,
So
yes.
I'm like, what the
Mm.
heck? Or you have something sitting somewhere and then it's gone.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, I know I put it there. Um, and then you second guess yourself. So you tear the whole house apart. The next day it's sitting back there again.
Yeah. Yeah.
That kind
Yeah.
of thing. So the
Wild.
timelines are really they're like waves, they're merging, and different, different aspects of you are on all these different timelines as well.
Mm.
So I mean, think about it, because if he didn't know, how would we know, what is going on in another timeline? So
Yes.
that is why I keep telling people, it's like, you know what? Don't focus in on what's going wrong and what's being dismantled, and, know that that's the divine plan of what's supposed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
keep putting out energy of what you believe would be the best scenario for humanity and Earth.
Yeah.
And really, the best scenario is where everybody just becomes love, and they work with the energy of love and sharing and community. And as more of a, everybody cares about what happens to everyone else instead of it's me, it's you, I need the money, you don't, blah, 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 so. And if you can't do that, then just foster a lot of love and send it to source and say, you use this love however you know that it's the best way for humanity moving forward.
Yeah.
It's
And
like
that makes so much sense. And it's so when you speak of, because I get it. I've had so many experiences of that recently, and so many experiences of breaking and shattering things. Like the last 3 days, I think I've broken five different things have shattered on me, literally completely. And I know then that there's I'm moving through big stuff. That there's the shattering of old dimensions of myself, right? To walk through and meet those other aspects of myself. And I understand from where that you can, I think it's this paying attention to the subtlety of how those timeline shifts can happen in your life. Most people don't see them because they're not paying attention, but it doesn't mean that they're not happening, right?
Exactly.
And that's the wobble. It's like a dimensional wobble almost.
And it's happening for everybody. It doesn't matter how awakened someone is or how how unawakened someone is. It's happening to us all.
Yeah.
And it's a wonderful thing. And I mean, like in our wildest dreams, I could have never imagined, they used to like give me like these movies that I could see all the destruction of what was going to happen. And part of me was kind of like, what is this? I don't even know what you guys are showing me. And now I can see what it is. It's everything that's been going on now. But so it's like it's important not to get caught up that and create more fear and more, because literally this is what I want to remind everybody of. Man is God man. We are God incarnate spirit into these human, I call them a meat suit, but let's just say bodies. And we can create anything we want. Well, if there is good and bad in the world, the dark ones know more about the human being than we know about ourselves. They know if they can use a television to create a feared reality, then they don't even have to do anything to create it. We're creating what's going on. Understand? So it's like, really be careful where your mind goes and what you're doing, because you can keep creating more havoc than, more enlightenment. And, our job here as a human being on this planet is to, help the world wake up to its truth. And its truth is that we are made in the image of God. We are an extension of God. Therefore, we are God. And we have so much power, unrealized potential and power. So it's like having a battery, and, you can use a battery to power lots of things. So what are you powering?
Absolutely.
So that is my biggest thing, that along with, sitting with that darkness to see where you're holding it. Because if the world is a reflection and, our unhealed emotions are creating, what's going on, then it's time for us to take responsibility and to really look inside and heal everything to the best of our ability. And if we can't do it on our own, then reach out and ask for help.
Oh, definitely. And I think help is imperative, really,
Hmm.
having the right support, and that support changes over time,
It does.
who you need to work with. But it really is a growing up, a spiritual adulting, isn't it?
Yes.
Out of yeah, any of these concepts, or even some of the old belief systems or new age philosophies that even I would have maybe looked into back in the day. I no longer resonate with a lot of that languaging, um, and and
Hmm.
and a lot of things that are kind of disempowering as well, in a way. Um,
Hmm.
giving our power to outside beings or intermediaries, or that kind of thing. Um, I mean, I feel not that I'm confused about energies, but I more and more have gone more back into myself and really refining what I'm connecting to, and really doing it from birthing myself from the inside out, and
Yes.
you know um
Hmm.
and I suppose that piece that I spoke to earlier around discernment, that it's such a critical piece for young ones, even opening up on the path and opening
Hmm.
to all of these different plant medicines, and so many things that are available and wide out there for people now, that wouldn't have been, you know,
Right.
to even 10 years ago, right? That
Right.
it's such a melting pot right now. And yeah, how what message would you, as because I very much see you as a galactic grandmother, if I could say that, as
Well, that's
and
pretty
an earth
sweet.
grandmother, I
Uh-huh.
do, because I
Uh-huh.
know you. What would your message be to, we'll say, your grandchildren, the future ones that are coming, in how to navigate these times?
Oh boy, that's a really
That's a
good,
big one.
that's a big one, Mara. First of all, I would say these children know when somebody's telling the truth and when they're getting they're just being told stuff just because a person doesn't really know what they're talking, or
Yeah.
there's just so much shenanigans going on with our children right now. It's one of the saddest things for me.
Yeah.
I am so passionate about our children, and I just see like, we don't even need to go into it.
Mm.
But what I would tell them is to follow their heart, not to play in what is being presented with them. To always stand in their knowingness, even when it's hard. And if they can't get clarity, to ask for some help from someone that they trust.
Mm.
And, the biggest thing that parents can do for their children is to talk to them about this stuff before they send them off to school, and, kind of give them a basis. Because, I mean, honestly, when I had my children, um, I felt really bad for them because each one of them was shut down in their own way, which I think
Right.
is like a passage to human life on this planet. So if it wasn't, something that happened in their childhood, it could be like they had a dark angel come in pretending to be a light angel and it shut them down spiritually.
Right.
Whatever it was that happened, it's like to teach them that they are incredibly powerful. And if they can reach into their heart, they know what the truth is,
Mm.
and that they were born that way, that they need to listen to what they're really being shown and what they hear and know for themselves. Because I don't even think it's that they're really getting information from outside sources. I think their higher self is so strong in them
Mm.
that they can literally just know what's truth and what's not truth, and what's real and what's not real. But the problem is we're getting this AI, which was supposed to come in. It's always been predicted this was all going to come in,
Yeah.
but it's like, parents, control what your children watch.
Yeah.
They don't know yet what's gonna program them in a, not good way. Pay attention to
Yeah.
what is going on in your child's life and talk to them like they are the wisest, most powerful being on the planet, and they will not disappoint you.
Mm.
And they're going to go through hard knocks just like we all did, because that stuff is still there until Earth flips and becomes non-polaric. There's always going to be the lesson. There always is. Someone said to me, it was just yesterday, we were on the phone, I'm going to do a talk to this group of women. And she said, well, it looks like Barb had a really rough life. Like, do we have to have a rough life to become a mystic? And I'm like, well, no, I don't think Buddha had a really hard life. Really, when you think about it, he came from a very wealthy family. But for the majority of people on this planet, the lessons and the hard things that we experience are like a cracking of your shell. And if you're not living life in truth of who you really are, you're going to get those hard knocks to just keep cracking that shell open. And at some point, you're going to break free from it, from all that programming. And that's what I think that shell is. That's the only thing it is. It's programming belief systems. It's what we've created, this little egg around us that won't really let us understand who we are. And it's kind of a self-protection mode sometimes too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
So,
it can be. I think it can also be that it's not just the shell, but that it's someone who is there to help others in some capacity has to experience the full array of human emotions, the dark and the light, and to really have walked that path.
Absolutely, because would you go to somebody that hasn't had an experience at all in life and who's trying to help you get through a hard experience? Heck no. Why would you? They don't even know what you're talking about.
Exactly.
And I know we all pick what we came here for. And one of the things that I have really found out is I used to be one of those people that was always like, well, I have to hurry up and do this because otherwise I'm going to get left behind. Oh, if I don't do this, I'm going to get left behind. I kept having that stupid thought all the time. And, I had to get over that. That was one of my programming things that I had rolling around in me. It's like when you are a human being on this planet, there is an energy that is there to help you, to help guide you in whatever direction you need to go. And it's going to make darn sure you get to where you need to go when you need to do it. And it will be when it's time for your human experience to experience that. You can't force things to happen. And if you do push, you're going to get pushed back. So it's like, we don't learn sometimes by just getting whatever we want. We learn by having to work for what we get to. That's not always going to be the case. The case is for when the earth flips into a more fifth dimensional frequency, that the energy of love will be the most prevalent energy on the planet. And that's going to be a whole different experience that I have no idea what.
Yeah, of what that even looks like or means. I mean, I know, and thank you for all of that, because there's so much in there for each one of us to remember. Yeah, I mean, when you speak about the earth flipping into fifth dimension, I mean, I don't know how I perceive that any longer, because I feel that languaging of ascended earths, ascension, the whole process, it's it doesn't land for me in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I suppose what I'm just trying to figure out how to bring that forward in another way, right? For some,
Mm-hmm.
or it's more understandable for those that, because it does seem on a level that we're going through the worst times in history for many people. You know, there's so many people
Mm-hmm.
struggling. And to wait for when, you know, this flipping of the earth, or this ascension into higher realms, I feel kind of negates sometimes what we're going through here and now, and how we have to face
Right.
what's really here. And I mean, I don't know, how do you feel about that? Do you feel like we can, all of these dimensions are accessible in any one time, right?
Oh,
um
absolutely. Absolutely. I'm not
and
in
it's,
fifth dimension yet. I go in and out of it sometimes, but honestly, I get along with really down to earth people the most. Now, what we have
right.
to remember, and Brenda Julian Williams, she's like a master at this stuff. She's like, oh, we just say things different. It's
Yeah.
just a word, it's a word. And you
Yes.
have to think of different words for what is comfortable for some people and not for
Yes.
other. But it doesn't matter. It's just words. You got to take it where you feel like you need to
Yes.
take it, right?
Right.
So are you talking for everyday normal people that are going through?
I suppose that, yeah, I don't believe that we are here I don't believe that we're here to to shift into the, you know, that I believe, yes, we're going through a massive evolution of our species, and that
Mm-hmm,
more parts of us are becoming available, right,
mm-hmm,
as a being, right? And
mm-hmm.
that, and I suppose, what do you, when you say I go in and out of fifth dimension, what does that look like to you, for instance, just as a tangible
Oh,
example of what
okay.
fifth dimensional frequency would be like of you?
Okay. So a fifth dimensional frequency is where like there's magic in the air,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
you can see brighter colors, and you might have a star being walk up to you, or in
Yes.
that resonance you might have the fairies flooding around you, or in that experience higher knowing comes in.
Yeah.
It's a lot of different things. When I was going through the trees of the redwood forest, I was so fifth dimensional frequency. It wasn't even funny, and I
Yeah.
could literally watch faces come out of a tree and begin to talk to me, and
Mm.
they were like humanoid faces.
Yes.
They were maybe sometimes a little elongated or whatever, but it's like that doesn't happen in 3D.
Yeah.
That kind of it's
Yeah.
it's it's almost like this feel of electrically charged particles and color that can create something different than what we've experienced in a normal life.
Yes. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. Beautiful.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's beautifully said. And that's much more, um that's more tangible to understand, because
Mm-hmm.
it is a shift of awareness. It's a shift of your consciousness when you, and particularly when you engage with nature, that field of interaction becomes uh more accessible, right?
And yes, way more heightened.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, nature, I mean, holy cow, you want to grow fast, you go spend time out in nature.
Yep.
Now, what I've found interesting lately for me is that's what I'm connecting the most to right now. So I've had little birds come and sit in my hand and take, their seeds and sit there, and they trust me. And then, like, I had a fox come up it was a couple weeks ago, and it was playing right next to the house. And then
Oh.
I've been having deers lay right next to the house. And I'm like, okay, are they, like, are they telling me that I should stay close to home? Are they, you know, are they just so, they can feel the energy that the love energy that I hold for them, and so they feel safe, so it's
Yeah.
like, if you pay attention to nature, nature's going to tell you exactly what's going on. You just have to, watch their antics or how they're
Yes.
behaving. If they're frenzied and they're like all over, they're looking for food, there's going to be a storm.
Yeah.
You get to understand nature, because nature is so in tune with what is going on that at any moment it can tell you what's what you need to do. So that has been
Yeah.
where my focus has been a lot lately, just being with the birds and in nature and making my art and that
Yes.
kind of stuff, because then you are in a different frequency. And what I always, it warms my heart when people say, oh my gosh, your creations take on like a personality.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, yeah, they do, because I love creating them so much. And I get such a giggle when one turns out a specific way, and you could just feel the energy coming off it. And I've taken pictures where there's a glow around the outside
Oh,
edge of some of them, and I'm like, hey, it's just like like one time they told me I worked with human species and I helped to create different things that way. And it's like I'm doing it in a mini version, only with wood. And
I love
I mean,
that.
it's so bizarre, but it's like, do the stuff that brings joy to you.
Yeah.
And it might
Yeah.
not make any sense to anybody else, but it's like, who cares?
It
If
doesn't.
you're
Yeah.
going, yeah, you wanna create a magical life, then you have to do what excites you. You have to be ready for what excites you to come forward. And that's how you get the fifth dimensional beings to come to you. Like,
Yeah.
there's a time, honestly, where I put on some really deep heartbeat music,
Mm.
and I sang and danced and wove between the trees, and I put jewels on each one of them, and I just gave so much love to those trees. And now every time when you go outside, you can just feel their
Oh,
energy coming towards you,
yeah. Yeah.
And one of the coolest things I ever saw was when Tanner was there. Well, Tanner's my 38-year-old handicapped son, and
Yes.
he's been a hard one to take care of. But I had him for a visit one day, and we went outside and we were standing on the back deck, and he goes, "Those are nice trees." And I said, they are, Tanner, and they're my friends. So if you wave to them, they'll wave back. So he waves to them, and the branches started bowing down like
Oh,
this. And he went back and he goes, "They waved to me." And I said, "I told you they would." And it's like, honestly, I know that sounds ridiculous to some people, but I'm telling you that if you hold that magic in your heart, and you just know and can sense the energy of these magnificent
mm,
beings that are all around us, holding the energy field for us, and you become one with the land around you or out in the forest, and you hold love in your heart, things begin to happen.
yes, they do. Thank you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I 100% agree. Yes.
Yep,
You're
yep.
acknowledged as you're co-creating with them, and you're developing a deep kinship, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I
There's
love it.
Yeah, there's nothing like it. And just to let people who are listening or viewing this know, Barb has some amazing creations. She's created these beautiful wood pieces with lots of, some of them look like indigenous Native
Yeah.
Americans, but lots
Mm-hmm.
of different ones, aren't they?
Yeah, it's usually, it always kind of goes to indigenous and then to elementals. So
Yeah,
I'm very close to both of those, and some of them are just, I mean, they are so much fun. They're
they're
just so
amazing.
much fun.
They're
So
amazing. When I
yeah,
saw pictures of them, like they really speak to you. They're
Yep.
powerful, powerful.
Yeah, they are.
I
Thank you.
love that.
That's fun. It's
Yeah.
fun. So if we can put our heart and soul into something, we can create whatever we want to. And,
Well, that's it.
I don't know any more than what the heck is coming next. I don't think anybody does.
No.
All I can do is what I hear, and again, that is put more energy into what the new earth, what you would love to see coming forward in humanity. And that's, to me, it's like healthcare for everyone. It's these, med beds coming in. It is, these great thinkers coming together online, and co-creating machines that will clean up the earth, and people coming together to learn how to garden and clean the earth from what's been poisoned because of all these chemicals and everything that is going on. The pharmaceutical industry changing to the way it used to be, where they could go out in the woods and pray for the right things to come forward, because they're all petroleum products. And we used to be purely, have everything grows that you need. One of the coolest things I ever heard was when I was studying, I don't even know I can't remember where I heard it, but I thought it was the coolest thing ever. They said, it is so important for you to walk barefoot in your garden and on your property, because you're sharing your DNA with the property and the garden, and then it grows what you're deficient in.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's it right there. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. And people forget that we are nature. And that's what the elementals would keep telling me all the time. Bigfoot, that's what he'd keep telling me all the time. And he's like, it really saddened him when there was a split of humanity, from nature, from remembering that they're nature, from the elementals, from the interdimensionals, from the star beings. What we have to remember is our history that's been taught to us is completely a lie. Like there's been so many generations and so many times that the earth has been really highly technologically, advanced. And then it's been flattened out, and then it's advanced again, and it's flattened out. And it goes back for many millions of years. Like what we're getting is like that much.
Yes.
And that's one of the important things, that if you really dig, if you really know where to dig, you can find the truth. And the truth, it looks far different from what we are being fed.
Absolutely.
So, and I'll say one last thing is, like, if you want to grow, if you want to find your spiritual gifts and abilities and knowingness, turn off that dang TV. Experience life not through your phone, not through Facebook, not through TikTok and Twitter and all those things. Like, have real one-to-one conversations with people. We are losing our ability to connect. And that's exactly what has been the agenda to start with. Watch your children. Do not let them watch TV all day because you don't want to deal with them. It's easier going that way. And be careful what they're watching, because everything has subliminal programming in it. And you deal with it now, and you are not their friend. You are not your child's friend. You are their parent. Act like it. It's so easy. Yes. And, there is an assault on our children right now, and it is important to watch out and to give them what they need to be able to combat that. So, that's where I go a lot is, shut off that TV, quit watching negative things, clear your field of negativity in whatever form. And every time you catch yourself being negative, go take a shower, ask water to clear you, go outside, go out in nature. The only reason people are unhappy is because they aren't doing what their soul is prompting them to do.
Yeah, that's it.
You know, happiness comes from the inside. It is, you can experience happiness by going and doing stuff, but happiness comes from the inside. It's an inside job. So what do you want to do to create that? It's your responsibility. You shouldn't be putting that responsibility on your partner, your children. You become an individualized, beautiful being of light, and everything around you will change. So that's my advice.
Oh, thank you. Oh, let that be received by and through the ethers to whomever needs to receive that message, and for the children, Yeah.
For the children.
Yeah.
We keep, and I hear this from every walk of life, what are we leaving our children? And it's like, no, what have you borrowed from your children? And if you have that thought of what am I leaving for your children, then get involved and start creating programs and whatever you need to do to influence children.
Yeah. And not this guilt, because I was just having this conversation before we wrap up here about the children and how so many parents are treating their kids like their friends, and they're afraid to discipline them, and they're, it's gone wild. And what are they creating as future ancestors in being like that? And the other part of that is, what the guilt that parents are putting on their kids around the earth dying, around all these huge responsibilities for children, and taking away their childhood as well, on a level. That I think being proactive, like you said, and setting up things and really getting creative about how to engage children in a positive way, rather than it all being like the earth is dying, we have to do this, and the parents' guilt, compounding on top of the children. I think there's so much, to be improved upon there for the kids as well.
Yeah, well, it's a hard, slippery slope, isn't it? I mean, there's not a parent alive that doesn't wish they could have been a better parent.
Of course, of course.
And I sure made my mistakes. Sorry, kids. But
look,
it was such a different world back then. Like this, I've never seen the intensity of what's going on. And honestly, I've heard so many kids say that they're really scared. They're scared of what's going to happen, and that's what breaks my heart. So
well, that's the energy that I feel needs to be like totally softened down and actually dissipated and dissolved, so that they can live and flower and blossom and bring forward their gifts.
Yes, and I think that that's going to be part of it. It's going to be dismantling the school systems and teaching in a different way.
Yes.
Because way back when, excuse me, children were taught according to their birth dates, the ray that they were on, the gifts and abilities that they had. And that's how they were taught, through those gifts. And they're taught that they are a piece of God, and that they have all this power, and how can we use this power to create a better, place. And I remember one time saying, now this was a little while ago, but I was totally disillusioned with children for a little bit. And I'm like, you know what? They're still the same brats they were when I was going to school. They're still bullying and picking on them. And, they just don't care anymore. And I know there's a lot of really good children, but there's really a lot of very, hardly brought up children who have had a very hard life.
Yeah.
And Spirit came in and said, Barbara, do you think that we could have these children come in fully awakened? And what do you think would happen? And I'm like, I don't know, but I suppose they'd have a very hard time staying on this planet. And they
Yeah.
said, yes, do not worry. This is all handled. When it's time to wake them up, they'll be awoken.
Mm. Right.
And I'm like, okay. We have to trust that everything is going according to plan. All we can do is the best that we can do for our children and our grandchildren and anyone else who we can affect. And the best way we can affect that is our own self-healing.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. The more of us who heal ourselves, the more we ripple that out in all directions. And that's the biggest gift we can give our families and the world and the universe, because whatever affects Earth, it ripples out, affects the whole, galaxy and beyond. I mean, it doesn't just stop here. And that's why so many star beings are here watching the process and connecting to their soul families and stuff. Now, some people get to experience that, and some don't even believe in star beings. So it's so individualized. And again, you have to have the want to do that, and put it out there and work with it, because it's a muscle that you need to build and stretch. And sometimes it just comes in and smacks you over the head. You had no choice in it. However you best work with it. And that's the way it is. Everybody's so individualized.
Yes.
Just trust that whatever comes forward for you is something you need to step through or work with. And that's all you can do.
That's it. No small task, but it's showing up for it all.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And sitting in the energy. And what do you want to open to? What do you want to? There's no right or wrong choice, because it's going to get to you eventually. And, sometimes you have a few hard knocks before you get to experience something.
Yes. Yes. And to not give up before the beauty starts streaming through.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you. My gosh, so much there. I've so much that I want to talk about with you, but look, I think we
it's up to you.
We've
been going quite a while there. Okay.
So,
alrighty. Well,
thank you.
Hey,
thank you, Barb.
Thanks
a million.
It's always a joy talking to you, Mara. I love you. I love you.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for listening as well, and for being here with us in this dialogue. Thanks, Barb.
You're welcome. Take care.